Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Egberto, Willies, your host. Thank you so kind for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual. How are all of my peeps doing today? I trust that everybody's doing just fine. We had a great inflation report today. We're going to talk about that. In fact, I have a pretty solid video that I just put together that we got to get. Of course, I got to load it up. Always kind of running late. It's always kind of running late, but we get it done. We get it done to make sure all is good. But how are all of my peeps doing this morning or this afternoon, I should say? We had a pretty solid show this morning. Of course, as usual, I never get to the topics that I write about early in the morning, but that's okay because this show belongs to our peeps, both those who listen at KPFT and those who listen here. Anyway, let's see how we get started. Oh, already El Señor. What am I saying here? What am I saying here? Looks like Rudnin wants something on the screen already. The screen may be kind of bubbly, but here we go. We'll try. There it is. I think it's on the screen. I am who I am, a spiteful, pathological liar, hateful xenophobe, out on a grievance politics revenge tour. I think that's about right. Doesn't everybody believe and trust that? I am what I am, and Bruce says it himself. All right, let's introduce everybody. Welcome aboard. Bruce is here from Kingwood, Texas. Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita. Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. Gene Daigle from Alvin, Texas. Gene Daigle, Alvin, Texas. Gene Daigle, Alvin, Texas. Got to get it incorporated into my brain. Of course, there is Paul Fleming from the one and only Powder Springs, Georgia, and Mike Cisak from Missouri. We also have Michael Rudnin from Brooklyn, New York. Lee Grant from Montgomery County, Texas. We also have in the house. Is anybody else in the house that I'm missing? Am I missing anybody? Did I say Bridge MCP from Binghamton, New York, upstate New York? That is. All right. I think I got everybody. I think I can. I think I can. I think I did. I think I did. Yes, I did. All right. Anybody else coming in, just go ahead and drop your name and we'll go ahead and call you out. Acknowledge your presence. From Michael Rudnin, it says the following New York Times, at the August 2 dinner, Mr. Trump told donors that the news media had been incorrectly suggesting that he had mellowed since the assassination attempt. I am not nicer, he said, according to one person in attendance. Another said Mr. Trump described himself as angry because they, unspecified adversaries that the attendee took to mean Democrats, had first tried to bankrupt him and then kill him. Indeed, Mr. Trump has been in a foul mood the past few weeks. He has ranted about Miss Harris. He has called her nasty on Fox and Friends and a bitch repeatedly in private, according to two people who heard the remark on different occasions. Wow, the guy is freaking out. His quickness to anger has left him susceptible to manipulation even among close allies. It had been a display of flagrant race baiting that was egregious, even by Mr. Trump's standard, and it's instantly reprogrammed America's TV news Karens. He falsely claimed that Miss Harris had only recently decided to identify as black for political purposes, but Mr. Trump showed no regret. I think I was right, he told the rattled donors that Friday night. Later at dinner under the tent, Harrison Lafargue, the scion of a New York real estate family whose father is an old friend of Mr. Trump's, asked how Mr. Trump planned to take the narrative back from Democrats and what his positive vision of the country would be. It appeared to be a request for assurance. Mr. Trump provided none. Instead, he criticized Ms. Harris on a range of fronts before adding, I am who I am. Yo soy quien soy. You know, I used to recite poems in Spanish back in Panama. And there's one poem that I love, and everybody ever hear me talk about poetry would always hear the same poem over and over again. Because to be honest with you, I probably memorized 10, 15 poems to recite in competitions, but I only remembered one. I don't know why I'm saying this. I have no clue why I just said that, but I said it. Señor, ya yo no quiero nada, nada ni el amor, porque el amor es simple motivo de dolor. Anyway, let's get busy. What else have we got here? Eric Hayes says Harris County DA Kim Ogg says the 2022 election day issue go all the way up to the top. While a county elections worker was charged, Ogg highlights deeper problems, noting long lines and people who didn't get to vote. Ogg told KTRH the investigation isn't over. More complaints or evidence is brought up for us, especially about motivation or others being involved. Then, of course, we will investigate. More civil suits could also be on the horizon. I feel sorry for my friend, Kim Og. I really feel sorry for Kim Og. Kim Og doesn't have a party anymore. She thinks by appeasing the Republicans, they're going to accept her. She doesn't realize that she committed the mortal sin of having been a Democrat. The old Democrats, like the former president, the former governor of Texas, they became Republicans during the grace period. No more Democrats allowed, Kim Og. No more Democrats allowed. Even if they open the door for you, they will have a watchful eye on you. Shameful, but that's okay. All right, what else have we got here? What else have we got here? Michael Rodney says Eric continues to post from trash sites like the Daily Wires and will continue to be ignored. Yeah, he should be. If you see something coming from one of those sites, it's not even worth mentioning. Again, it tells you why some people are willfully ignorant because they choose their sources of information that makes them ignorant. But the best we can do is try. The best we can do is try. Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain is in the house and she says, Happy Wednesday to all. Jean Daigle, good day peeps from Alvin, Texas. I love you, Jean. Welcome aboard. And Bruce, who I am is who I am. I know Bruce, I know you well, brother. I know you well. All right, Kamala taking the removal of the tip tax weeks after Trump came out with the same policy. Seems Kamala only has Trump policies. Oh my God, you must not have come on early enough. That I suggest that you go and listen. They are not the same policies. They are not even close to being the same policies. It's wishful thinking to believe that the tip policy that she articulated has anything to do with what Trump tried to put out. What Trump tried to put out had very little to do with tip workers because guess what? Tip workers generally don't pay taxes on their tips. You know why? They don't make the threshold. But if you want to be educated, my dear brother CSAC, here is a piece I did on it where I explain to you the differences between the tip policies. They're not the same. They're not stolen ideas. It is completely different. She makes sure that the tip policy goes in concert with wage increases, a living wage, and also she makes sure that venture capitalists and all the others cannot use this tip policy as yet another tax loophole. So thank you. What she did was corrected something that Trump was going to use as a selling point. In other words, Trump wanted to say, tip workers, you don't have to pay taxes on your tip. Tip workers, you don't have to pay taxes on your tip. But when the law is written, the only people that really, really get to take advantage of that is those people who, the stockbrokers and the hedge fund managers, etc. And the real people who we are trying to help, the tip workers, they get niet. What she says is for those who collect, let's say, a lot of tips, hey, you pay no taxes on your tip. But we also want to tie that to a wage increase. And lastly, we want to make sure we prevent it from being used for anything other than our hospitality workers. So, so again, she made it, it's not the same. As usual, what a lot of folks on the right do is they don't do any critical thinking on these particular issues. Critical thinking, folks, critical thinking. Critical thinking, please. All right, continuing. Jane Daigle says inflation is more corporate gradation. 90% of inflation right now is the cost of housing. Yes. But also 100% of inflation is caused by whom? 100% of inflation is caused by corporations. All right. Roberto Luis, mi hermano favorito, dice, saludos mi gente, politics done right. It's been a while to get on the chat, but I'm always informed. I'm very busy with Pantex. My respect goes out to everyone on politics done right. Pantex is a 501c3 that promotes Panamanian and Latin American culture. I'm a part of the team. Roberto Luis is the president of our team, and we work to create these events that promote Central American, Latin American, Panamanian culture, kind of inform a lot of folks that are misled into believing that we are just running over here, not realizing that people from all over Latin America have spilled blood for this country. And Roberto, my brother from Panama, as well as myself, all of us have relatives who have fought the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and all these other wars. As the United States came to these other countries to fish many of our people on the Canal Zone and other Caribbean islands and Latin American islands to serve in the American military and sort of for an exchange for a green card or something, you know? So a lot of these folks came over here and served and died for this country. Very important for people to know. The MAGA folks think, oh, we're coming to take over the country. No, we're not going to do what the forefathers of many of you did. And by the way, most of you MAGAs, your forefathers weren't the ones who started the country anyway. You are just like the immigrants coming over as well. You know, you came on Ellis Island or something after the founding fathers created an America. And let's also remember that the founding fathers took land by force. All right? These people that are coming over the border, they're not coming to invade, they're coming to work. Very, very different. The founding fathers invaded a land. These people are coming just to work. You would think that we would have a modicum of humility, given that our past history doesn't speak well to humanity. Okay? So let's get that there. Let's be clear about that. All right, let's see what else we got here. Gene Daigle said people do not claim their tips, so not paying taxes on them anyways. You know, it's funny, right? And let me correct that, Daigle. The way it works now, if you give somebody cash, right, when you go to the restaurant, a lot of that goes undeclared. So that's, you know, these laws don't help anything there. But if you go ahead and put it on the credit card, your boss sees that you got a tip and there is a record of you having received a tip and the company giving you money as income for that tip. So you have to declare that. But let's go a bit further, because let's tell you a little bit of what Donald Trump did under his administration. The one thing about Donald Trump is we know what Donald Trump did. So when Donald Trump come to hospitality workers and they say, I am going to give you no taxes on your tips. Let's remember that Donald Trump gave employers permission to steal the workers' tips legally. Executive order that I don't know if it's an executive order. I don't remember if it's an executive order or was signed. But when you write your credit card and you left a tip, that boss, your boss, could use that tip as he sees fit. If he or she wanted to give it back to you, so be it. If he or she wanted to split it among all the employees, so be it. If he just wanted to use that tips as a part of the sale, so be it. That is what this evil man signed into law. And now he comes and he says, oh, we want to go ahead and make your tips tax-free, after he signed an executive order that I think it was an executive order because I think Biden repealed it. that allowed employers to steal your tips. So let's be clear here. Let's be damn clear. Okay? Let's be very, very clear as to what Donald Trump really did. So anyhow, let's go ahead and get busy with our first and only video, but it's a 14-minute video, but it's a very important video. And I'm going to also put it in the feed. I need to put this video in the feed because I need to ask all of you to share this video as well. And here is the video in the chat. The link is in the chat of the video I'd like you to share. Let me put it in there one more time. This is an important video because it's a counter narrative against what you get on MSNBC, CNBC, and all these other places. And it's I cleaned it up from what I did yesterday. So it's very much worth looking at. And please share it. Check it out. Well, the inflation rate has gone down. Breaking news. It's now 2.9%, down all the way from 9% in record time, actually, that we've gotten there. Well, you know why that is? A lot of people say, oh, well, maybe Biden did all the right things, etc. Actually, that is not the complete story. The complete story is exactly what we said earlier on. This was not an inflation rate. This was a corporate greed rate, not an inflation rate, a corporate greed rate. And that's the reason it could fall quickly, because we were not talking about shortage. But anyway, I want you to listen to the report, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Breaking economic news this morning. Inflation is dropping, coming in at 2.9% for July. We're talking about the prices you pay. It's the first time that inflation number has fallen below 3% in more than 3 years. Let's get right to NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung. Okay, eggs, rent, gas, break it all down for us.
Yeah, and again, we haven't seen a number this low since March of 2021. But look, the big takeaway here is that prices are still going up in America, but they're going up by a slower pace than we had seen in the prior months. So again, July 2024 compared to July 2023, these are yearly figures, 2.9%. That's how much prices rose over that 1 year period. That's a slower pace than the 3% inflation we had seen in the June to June period. So again, let's take a look at the yearly rate of inflation on this chart. And you can see that, look, we've made vast improvements from the over 9% inflation rate that we had seen in the summer of 2022. Yes, we've been coming down, and it is indeed the case. We've kind of been going sideways, hovering around this 3% inflation rate for a little while, which is the reason why it makes it so significant that we broke through to that 2.9% figure this morning. Now, when you unpack the report, where did we see the changes in prices? Because again, this consumer price index, it's a measure of everything that we purchase on a regular basis. So food prices did increase. These are monthly figures that I'm showing you now, 0.2% between June and July, same pace as we saw in the May to June period. Energy prices really helped us out here. Gasoline prices actually declining between June and July. Energy broadly, when you include other things like natural gas, basically going sideways between June and July. But the one point of concern that we still have is housing costs. This is the largest expenditure for most Americans. It actually increased between June and July. So housing prices increasing by 0.4% between June and July. This, by the way, accounted for 90% of the increase in the overall inflation index. We're going to have to continue to watch that if you want to see that other inflation headline number come down. Analysts that are reacting to this report are basically saying this solidifies and guarantees essentially a Federal Reserve interest rate cut in their next meeting, which will happen in the middle of September. The story here is really going to be, all right, well, the Federal Reserve is looking at what's been happening with not just inflation, but the fact that wage growth also has increased as well. 3.6% is the yearly pace of wage increases. That is above the pace of inflation of 2.9%. The Federal Reserve, the nation's central bank, saying, all right, we've held interest rates so high for quite a while. That's the reason why your mortgage rates and your credit card rates are high, but it appears to be a good dynamic with people making more than prices are going up at the store. We'll have to see if the Fed does cut.
All right. You know, it is very disconcerting to me how the media puts out this information. It's like, oh, we are happy. The inflation rate is down. Of course, housing is still high, etc. The corporations are still ripping us off. So what I want to do is I want you to listen. I want you to listen to a piece that I did, I think either yesterday or the day before, on what really caused inflation. Inflation had nothing to do with Biden. It had everything to do with the failure, not the failure, because they knew exactly what they were doing. It had everything to do with corporate greed and what the corporations put on the people. The corporation raped the American citizenry. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. Those prices in the grocery stores are caused directly by corporate greed. Let me tell you again. All, not some, all of inflation. I'm going a bit further than our friend in Congress who claimed that it's only about, I think it was like 50% of inflation was caused by corporate greed. I am telling you, categorically, 100% of inflation was caused by corporate greed. And for those who are first tuning in today to my program, let me explain. There were several factors that caused inflation. The one that they like to talk about the most is supply chain, meaning we had a lot of shortages because of the supply chain coming from overseas. Number two, they like to claim that it was caused also by the oil crisis caused by not drilling enough in America, as well as the war in Ukraine. And three, they want to say it was Biden throwing too much money into the economy. I can debunk absolutely every single one of those items from a standard economic point of view. In other words, this isn't thinking out of the box. This is thinking out of how our economic system works today. I would like to change the way our economic system works. An economic system isn't divine. It is man-made. It is human-made. So we can change it. But under the current tenets of our economic system, all of inflation was caused by the private sector, by the corporate state. Here, first, let's start with the challenges caused by the supply chain. The only reason we had a supply chain to the problem to the extent of that we had it to create problems is because corporate greed said, we're not going to make cloth and textiles in the Carolinas anymore. We're going to send it off overseas. We're not going to create a lot of our products in America. We're going to send it off to China, Vietnam, and elsewhere. So therefore, we are going to ship a lot of our demand, what fulfill our demands overseas. By doing that, it means that we are very dependent on export or on imports, meaning we are very dependent on transportation. How do you get transportation? Through ships bringing containers into America. Now, when you have that lag in manufacture, shipping, and then going into the store, you must create something called inventory. Huge inventory to cover what? You should create inventories to cover the potential or possibility of hurricanes, the possibility of ships sinking, the possibilities of hurricanes beating up on ships, the possibility of pandemics, the possibility of strikes in the overseas areas where you're manufacturing. All of that dictates having to create large storage areas locally to prevent shocks to the system. But you know what? In order to get money themselves and not pay the Americans an American living wage, they created these offshore items. It's not the only thing that they did. They also started a process called just-in-time inventory. When everything works good, the executives look like geniuses. Right? Because if as soon as something is manufactured in Korea, it goes on a container ship, gets to the container yard in LA, and it leaves the container yard in LA on a trail and gets to the Walmart or gets to all these other places, works perfectly. You don't have to pay for inventory. You don't have to pay storage. You don't have to pay any of those things. But again, because of the greed, the evil of these executives, just-in-time inventory, along with offshoring, created the supply chain problem. And then who do they ask to pay for that? They ask us to pay the inflated prices for their screw-up. So who caused that part of the inflation? The corporate sector. Número dos, they said, the oil because of the war in Ukraine, created a shock to the market. Biggest lie that there is. We never had a shortage of petroleum. You could always go to the gas station and buy gas, whether the price was high or not. They knew they could keep the price high, but I'm going to talk about why they could keep the price high after this year. But anyway, it was always a lie. America is drilling more today than under Trump or under any other president. We are the largest creator of oil, bar none. America is the United States of America. That is okay. Now, the parts where the war was in Russia, in Ukraine, had nothing to do with the oil fields in Russia. Russia, even with sanctions, could still ship its oil. In fact, the sanctions of Russians should have reduced the price of oil. Why? Because China and India was buying oil from Russia at a discount because of the sanctions. But let's go a bit further. If China and Russia are buying oil on the Russian market at a discount, that means there's more oil on the Western market because China and India are buying less. And guess how we know that it's a fact that there was less oil, that they bought less oil and there was more oil on the market? Guess what? In the middle of these high prices, in the middle of this pandemic, guess what Saudi Arabia did? Saudi Arabia said, oh, the price, that there is a glut of oil in the market, not a shortage, a glut. So what are we going to do in Saudi Arabia? We are going to take away 2 million barrels of oil a day. They gave Biden hell because Biden said, okay, you guys are going to play with the market now. So what I have is something called a strategic reserve. I am to protect America with this strategic reserve. So I'm going to open that damn reserve up and throw oil onto the market. And then that kind of mitigates. And people say, well, he got about 40 or 50 days worth of oil. And if he does it right, he can really kind of mess with our stuff. But that oil price rise was corporate greed, not shortage. But guess what? Once you raise the price of oil, farming get more expensive, trucking gets more expensive. All these things dependent on oil gets more expensive. As they get more expensive, those prices go on to the product you buy. And of course, Walmart didn't just put the extra price on. They tagged another little piece onto it. Corporate greed. The prices went up higher than their costs that they were giving all this free money to the oil companies. And the third part why inflation was allowed to fester was because of the stimulus. Biden threw a lot of money to prevent people from starving, put a lot of money to prevent people from feeling the pain of a mal-done pandemic that Trump allowed to occur. Had Trump stopped the pandemic by not making believe it's just the flu, it would have been a lot less worse than it was then. Now, so because the corporations knew that Americans had extra money in their pockets and that they were no longer spending that money on restaurants, etc., it means there are certain things they could raise their prices on because they knew Americans would still buy it. Why? Because they had money in their pockets. And as the tenet of capitalism says, it's very simple. Whatever the market will bear. It's an evil system. If you have money and we know you have money and we have a product that we know you want or must have, we can put the price as high as you are willing to pay or as you have money for said price. Again, folks, 100% of inflation was caused by corporate greed. Do not allow the narrative from the mainstream media. Do not allow the narrative from neoliberal economists from telling you otherwise. And by the way, I validated this entire narrative with several economists who are willing to go on the line and say, Brother Willies, you are right. Okay? So these are statements of fact. They are quantifiable and verifiable. Absolutely everything that I just told you about inflation. So yeah, that is what's important, folks. It's quantifiable. It is verifiable. And I'll just give you a quick way that you yourself can go quantify it. When go look at CNBC and watch the stock market as it went up. see what the percentage is compared to previous years, how much more these capitalists made based on the profits the corporations made. Then calculate how much that raise in price for flour, etc., brought in to that company. And what you find is you can find a correlation between the price increases and the net increase in profits. Not total profits, but the net increase in profits give you that. And you know what? This is not rocket science. This is simple. Our media should be doing these things. When the inflation rate came out, immediately, our media should immediately have said, wait a minute, how can, if you're calling inflation because of supply chain, because of oil prices, because of all these things, how comes your profit, your net profit relative to your past profit is up relative to the increase in price of the products you're selling? You see, it's all, when I say quantifiable, that's what I mean. We can show the increase in that inflation is quantifiable towards corporate greed. No, it's not an opinion, Eric. It's a statement in fact that math proves. If you're a real accountant, you ought to know that it is in fact quantifiable if you choose to look it up. That's all you got to do. Look it up. Now, when I say now verifiable, it is absolutely verifiable. It is verifiable that Russia was selling oil to China and India at a discounted price. It is verifiable that when America went to India and said, "Hey, you need to stop buying the oil from Russia," India said, "Are you kidding me? This is good for my people. You are going to do what's good for your people. I am doing what's good for my people. So my people get oil at a discount. You bet your life I'm going to buy the oil at a discount for the Indian people." And the China said the same thing. We are working in our own national interest. We have no beef with Russia. We have no beef with these countries. You may have a beef with them. That's fine. We have no beef. We're looking out for our interests, which is exactly what we do here in the United States. We crippled Venezuela. We crippled anybody who doesn't want to follow what we want them to do. So it's the way it works. It's the way it works. Okay. Michael Radney says the American dream is dying a slow death, but it still lives on barely. Do you remember the American dream? Yes, I was in an organization called the American Dream. In fact, with and I have the interview that I did with what's his name that used to work for the black guy that used to work for the Obama administration on the green energy. What's his name again? I'll remember it in a little bit. But anyhow, so yeah, I did work on that, and we were really trying to revive the American dream. Was in DC several times on that, to work here for yourself and your family so your children have a better life than you had. That isn't happening right now. We haven't covered that base. Economic mobility in the United States is low, but immigrants and refugees will want to come here to try and rebuild their life. You see, and I can tell you this as an immigrant. Immigrants don't know any better, right? We come over here not to fail. We come over here not for a handout. We come over here to work our asses off. I don't know an immigrant that comes over here for welfare. In fact, immigrants are a net positive to this country. In fact, even the undocumented immigrants pay Social Security, Medicare, and will never, ever, ever be able to use it. So they are subsidizing Americans that have their papers. So when you're dogging, when Trump wants to get rid of 11 million immigrants, I want you to think about the billions of dollars into Social Security that he's getting rid of. that you, the people who think you love MAGA, are going to have to recoup. Not Richard Dorkey. It's actually the black guy. His name is Van Jones. I interviewed Van Jones because he was one of the leaders of the movement, Van Jones. But anyhow, so here's the deal. Here's the deal. I repeat, for all of you who want those 11 million undocumented people expelled out of this country, I hope you know that you're going to pay 2 new taxes to expel them. Tax number 1 is what I call the grifter tax, or the corporate greed tax. Notice what Trump says. If he gets into office, he's going to round up all these immigrants, all these undocumented immigrants. And guess what he means by rounding them up? He means he's going to put them in concentration camps that are run by the private sector. His friends will have to feed them, house them, clothe them, give them health care, all of that, because they're not going to throw them over the border, and they have to find a way to get them to some other country. So the first tax that you are going to pay on those undocumented workers is to round them up and to put them in these concentration camps that you are going to pay for. Don't you know, to keep somebody in jail, your regular jail, maybe 40 to 80,000, depending on where you at per person. Well, you could do that. You could send them to school for free, or you could send them to school and pay a third of that. But we don't think, the conservative methodology is not one of thinking. Anyway, continuing. You go ahead and likewise have to pay a tax, because now you got to pay more Social Security and Medicare. Why? Because your undocumented workers are subsidizing your Social Security. The undocumented worker are subsidizing your Medicare, your Medicaid. You didn't know that, did you? Trump didn't tell you that. This status quo where we turn a blind eye to these workers that we actually need them until we fix the immigration system, it's the smartest move. Turning the blind eye until we have the pelotas to fix the system. But, again, like I said, MAGA don't think. MAGA don't think, and all those people you see, those undocumented workers, those illegal aliens, look, all they want is a job. And for a lot of these, you're the ones who took their land anyway. So let's be clear here. All right, continue. Welcome aboard, Lizard Queen. Great to see you here. Lizard Queen, you're from Houston, right? And Billy Allison Irwin. I think Billy Allison Irwin is from here in my area, Northeast Texas. What is it called? It's right down there on Lake Houston Boulevard. Let's see. Steigen Bergen Greek. Welcome aboard as well. And of course, Allison's Dreams. Welcome to Summerwood. Summerwood, that's the name. Summerwood, that's the name. Summerwood. All right, Liz Townsend, welcome aboard. Beautiful Liz Townsend from H-Town. Of course you're from H-Town. Whoop, whoop. That's what we do. That's what we do. All right, let's see what else we got here. Bridge MCP says, Egberto Willies, I was involved in JIT long time ago. JIT is just-in-time inventory. So it's actually JITty. You forgot the I. Boop, boop. Before barcodes, then the barcode experiment came out. So when the item is scanned, it clicks off the inventory, landing the computer to order more. I was at the time in import managing 5 warehouses, the main one and the others in New Jersey, Virginia, and California. Yeah, I mean, it works, right? But you can actually, again, if you want to offshore, inventory is one thing, right? But offshoring is another thing, because offshoring when you offshore, you add so many other degrees of freedom. Worker strikes, pandemics, hurricanes, and big ships with thousands of containers potentially sinking or falling into the ocean. So you add 4 more variables to the problems you can have with the supply that you have in your warehouse. In the States, your biggest thing is from your warehouse to the store. When you're talking about overseas, it's from the factory to the warehouse to the container ship to the ocean to the warehouse, I mean to the container yard in the States, to the temporary storage, to the rails or trucks. I mean, the supply chain gets very complicated from a whenever you started talking about important stuff, right? And what these people can't see is, yeah, the money that they save in efficiency and all of that. One, pays slave labor to people overseas. Number two, it hurts your income base here in the United States because by these people not making the good money they used to make, they buy less. I mean, it's just a poor thing altogether. All right, let's see what else we got here. What else we got here? Para ver. Gene Daigle says, no one, now once that container gets to the US and is not able to go directly from ship to truck and store, and instead goes to a warehouse, cost to store pre-COVID to that increased 250%. Corporate greed. Yep, exactly right. Paul Fleming says, new 9 more Republican-led states sue President Biden over 2021 executive order expanding voter registration opportunities, marking the fourth GOP lawsuit trying to block the order by claiming that the president exceeded his authority. Who would think that you do that for voting, right? All right. Let's see what else we got here. I'll repeat for you, Eric. I don't have when look, I will go to where a caller is, and I'm talking about one of my callers in the morning. But I'm not going to let her delude or her she or he delude themselves when they parrot rubbish like some of what you're put in here. I will respond to rubbish and I will call out rubbish. It's that simple. Okay. All right. Let's see. Richard DeCorday, Obama's energy climate czar. Okay. What else have we got in the chat? Let's see. Vrit says Liz FV goes to YouTube, but has a character limit, so you can't read it all. Yeah, you don't get the whole thing when it transfers. Eric forgot how Trump. This is from Rudden. Eric forgot how Trump asked Russia to get compromat intel on his opposition in 2016. Eric forgot how much Trump was kissing Putin's ass in Helsinki in 2018. Eric forgot that Trump has done business with Russian oligarchs and Russian banks. That Trump wanted to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. Should have told you a lot about him. People like Eric ignore what goes against their narratives. Again, that is what you call wishful ignorance. That is what's actually known as wishful ignorance. But you can't help that, right? You can't really help wishful ignorance. Barbara Wilt says MAGA doesn't care if our taxes go up as long as their buddies make money rounding up immigrants. And it's funny because then they pay the price, right? They get ripped off in so many different ways, and one hopes that at some point in time they'll learn, and I think some are learning. That's why you see a lot of them are now that knowing starting to jump on the bandwagon to support Kamala Harris. In fact, I repeat what I've been saying. So I want a big party after we have that landslide in November, because like I told you, everybody's looking at this like it's going to be a close race. Oh, they have to cover their bases. It's going to be a close race. It will not be a close race, in my humble opinion. If Democrat, and there's one caveat: if Democrats do what we tell them to do, it won't be a close race. If they start hedging, then it becomes a close race. They should not, they must not hedge. All right. Actually, the Mueller report didn't waste a lot of money. The Mueller report has all this about the collusion between the Russians. All happened is when they read the report, they lied and they set the narrative, and then you can read the report yourself. It actually proves the collusion. All right. I don't know why it is that Trump gets a pass. When we talk about, a lot of people get mad when you talk about some people have privilege, right? I have never ever seen someone with the level of privilege that Donald Trump has. Donald Trump will be locked up in jail a long time ago. Donald Trump is a criminal, and I'm not talking about just the recent conviction and four felonies. I'm talking about all that he's done throughout, from ripping off people at a false school to 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 stealing from his charity, to grabbing. I mean, there is so much that this guy, if he were me, I would be in jail long time ago, right? Bridge MCP says, Billy, yeah, thought that a first year's, yeah, I thought that at first years ago, he is a bit different on Zoom meetings, but as the right see us winning, they go nuts, way over the edge. They are going nuts. These people are about to hyperventilate. I mean, and what, you know what is so funny though, Bridge MCP? Anybody who watches politics done right, all when the polls were reversed real badly, I said the Democrats were going to have a big win. I hope you realize that I've been saying this for a long time. And as they hyperventilate, the win is going to get even bigger because nobody wants to be on a losing side with losers who act the way they are acting right now. They like, what is the theme of Kamala's campaign? Joy. The joy of winning. People want to be on a joyful team that wins. And the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz team is going to win a beautiful battle. And then that's when the work begins for us progressives. That is when we have to force Kamala Harris's hand. We can't just give her a win. We have to give her a win, then start mandating what we want. And about January 6th, there won't be another January 6th because the National Guard will be called out immediately before they get a chance to assemble. The National Guard will be called out. Hey, I intend to be in Washington, D.C. on the inauguration of the first woman president in America. To me, that will be one of the most glorious days. We would have crossed a boundary that we should have crossed long time ago, that Hillary crossed, but because of a system that protects a particular class, didn't. I'm not a Hillary fan, but Hillary should have been the first woman president. She won the election. She won the election. Okay, so here's the deal. I am going to be so proud that we are finally going to get over what England has gotten over in electing Margaret Thatcher and several other women for prime minister, what Argentina has done, what Brazil has done, what Israel has done, what Pakistan has done, what Finland has done. And we can call country after country where women were elected to be president. And I'll tell you, our prime minister, and I'll tell you better, in our current environment, during COVID, Jardine of New Zealand or Australia, I think it was New Zealand, I tell you, the women had done so much better in handling COVID than the troglodytes. It's amazing. Shirley Chisholm, first black woman that attempted to run for president. Well, she ran for president, but the Democratic Party screwed her over. So, but it's time. It is really, really time. I tell you something. I was speaking to somebody at one of our foundations that I'm on the board, and I looked at this woman and I said, I am so happy that right now we are starting to be taken over. The leadership is becoming quite a bit more female. And I'm not saying, I'm not saying that I'm just saying that out of men have been leading all these coalitions for so long. Hi, Tamara, how you doing? Men have been leading these coalitions for so long that they feel entitled to it. And when you feel entitled to something, you can pass laws like take away women's rights, believe that you know more about a woman's body than she knows about her own. Believe that you can, and again, that comes with a certain amount of privilege, that comes with a certain amount of entitlement. but that's what men do. And one of the reasons you see me so strongly, the world looks like it does because of it's not only white men though. I hear that a lot, and I don't want to just throw the brunt on white men. There's a certain black man sect as well, Latino sect as well. It's a man thing. If a black man could do the same thing that white men did in slavery, don't ever think they wouldn't do it as well. Because guess what? They did. It's a male thing. Whiteness adds another layer of prejudice. But you go look into the black church and take away blackness from it. It shows you the same damn evil structure. That thing of entitlement, women at the wayside. You know, that's a culture I grew up in. That's a culture I learned to abhor. You see what I'm saying? Patriarchy. And it bugs the crap out of me because I've seen so often women how women do the things that that I see minorities do to cope. They hold back their intelligence. They hold back on trying to protect the that weakness of those who think they're strong. It's a man thing. It's a patriarch thing. I don't know if you saw that interview with a guy, an evangelical guy, who talked about Donald Trump being divine, and Donald Trump really doesn't need to listen to anybody. He just needs to listen to himself, and he's okay with that. We got to stop it. Full equality, full equality, full equal access to success. That is what we're supposed to stand for. Full equal access to success, not our equal outcomes, but access to success. Okay, I need to close this baby down. I have no more material for today, but I do want to ask all of you who are listening to support the program however you can. And today I'm going to just ask you for one form of support, and that is to support us through our newsletter. And that is to go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. And I ask you so kindly to become, I need hundreds, and I'm so far behind on this to be able to continue what we're doing. I need hundreds. I would love for you to become paid subscribers of our newsletter. Our newsletter is always informative. It's always up to date. We send it out all of the times. So I want to ask you to become subscribers of our Substack. And again, we don't do this and say, hey guys, you're giving something for nothing. No, that's not the case at all. Here's our newsletter, politicsandright.com/newsletter. And notice, forget the blinking screen for now, but in our newsletter, you get a chance to read all of my books that I've written and all the books that I'm about to write. And there are 3 of them that I'm currently writing right now. You get to read all of them online. And what does that look like? Most of them are already online. You just go to the menu and see the books, and here are all the chapters that you can read on the book for becoming a paid subscriber of Politics Done Right. You just have to go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. That's my first book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. The second book that I wrote is It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relative, Friends, and Neighbors. And here is the book as well. You can go ahead and see, there's our table of contents, and you can go ahead and read the entire book online. Thank you for reminding me about doing that, Breach. And what else have we got here? You can also go ahead and let me back up here to the other book that I have. Remember the book that I wrote, Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man, and you can read the book. I have all the book loaded as well. And what's the other book that I have in there? Okay, but again, all of my books are listed that you can get now. By if you become a paid subscriber of our newsletter, this part of the website opens up for you to read all of my books. Just go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Now, Breach, thank you for reminding me about that. You can also go to my store. I even have some Kamala Harris t-shirts and some Politics and Right t-shirts and mugs and all that I'm talking about there. You can get there by going to politicsdoneright.com/store. And let me go to the link for the store. Egberto, ¿dónde está? ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está? Here is the link for the store. Let me go ahead and bring it up. politicsdoneright.com/store. And bringing that up, here is our store where we have a whole lot of Politics Done Right stuff for you. And I'm going to put it on the screen in a minute. And you can get the t-shirts, you can get the hats, the mugs. I support independent media, Politics Done Right logo, the head cap. Also, if you can see we have the Kamala Harris mug. So check us out. You can support us in so many different ways to make sure that we did I hit enter for that? I think I did. Probably not. There it is. politicsandright.com/store. I have the link in there as well. So you have all the hats and the stuff that you can check out. All of this help us do what we're doing here. All of it helps move it forward. And again, of course, you can check us out via PayPal or Patreon. But that is how we get to do what we do. And as you can see, we put a whole lot of work into it right here. We put a lot of work, get you the information. The last video that I did on inflation, I would like you to share that widely. Not because we see it on TV mean that it is so. We have to start being critical thinkers. We have to think critically. They tell us things so that we can act on them in a certain way. If you ask why, then it gets them very concerned and the narrative building starts again. That's what we're here for, to fix the narrative. Anyway, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.